85. Okay, so we have video. Appears we have audio. We have 6 people on the line. Attendees on the webinar and 4 people in the room. I'm just stating that for the record, help you. I got 1 more minute before we begin, so we'll just give it another minute. That's the PDD. Good. We'll can have the resolution. We can have the public hearing. We can have the neg deck. But we'll Can you just tell them our plan, because we have some technical for these guys. Okay. Okay. So we've got drafts. Okay. Because there's just some small minor things that have to be tweaked in, like pavement, things like that. Okay. It's just a public hearing, so usually saying just yeah. You guys ready?
Yeah.
You guys ready? Good evening. Welcome to the May 19th meeting of the Glenville Town Board. Please rise for the invocation and pledge of allegiance. For tonight's invocation, I just ask you to take a moment of silence and offer your own intentions. Amen. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please call the roll.
Councilman Martin.
Here.
Councilman Anagosa.
Here.
Councilman Godlewski.
Here.
Councilwoman Wozzowski. Here. Supervisor Pettsley.
Here. Welcome all the folks in the room and folks on the webinar. We have just 2 changes on the agenda. We will be pulling resolution 14, which is the local law number 11, designated parcel 66 Freeman's Bridge Road as a commercial planned development district in accordance with the zoning code of the town of Glenville. And we are pulling that because it is not quite ready with all the I's and dot and the T's crossed on that one. We still have a little bit more work, but minor and technical in nature. And then we're adding a resolution, add-on resolution 1 at the end of the meeting, which is a resolution accepting the bids for Empire Paving of Schenectady regarding the Glen Oaks neighborhood. And that is a sum of $256,523.85. And then we'll be rejecting the second location, which was an add-on due to budget constraints. So those are the 2 changes to the agenda. With that, I'll move on to town council reports, and I'll start with Councilman Godlewski.
Just to say, Mr. Supervisor, that today, for the first time in quite some time, today felt a little different with New York adopting some of the CDC recommendations the weekend, and what seems like the beginning of the allowance of folks who are vaccinated and the folks in general to go back out in public without masks on. For me, I went to the Y this morning for the first time in a long time and did the elliptical without a mask on, and that felt like I was getting away with something. Like it was a great experience. It was great to be back to some modicum of normalcy. So if you're going out to business or to different places, I think it's an ever evolving area presently. So maybe check out what their policy is regarding wearing a mask, and just to not steal my apologies to Councilman Martin, but maybe you can repeat the sentiment just to us under the
Thank you. Councilwoman Worzbowski.
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, I would like to just take a moment and publicly recognize Scotia Fire Department and the 18 mutual aid companies that responded to a very large fire on Sunnyside Road on Sunday night. It was an enormous undertaking. It was a log storage facility or facility area that caught on fire, and they were there through the night. And it just gives testament to the town's fire departments and to our surrounding communities, the commitment and dedication that they have to keeping residents and property safe. So just wanted to publicly recognize them and thank everyone for their efforts.
Thank you. Councilman Martin.
In a moment of commonality with Councilman Godlewski, I also welcome the fact that those who are vaccinated are eligible to go maskless. It's good to have our individual civil liberties back, and I also join him in encouraging everybody to, if you have not been vaccinated, and if you can find it within your value system to do so, I encourage you to do that.
Is that what you said, Councilman Godlewski? Civil liberties are back?
We reached the same conclusion.
From a different point, but be that as it may, it is time to go.
Thank you. Councilman Aragosa.
The only thing I have, I'm going to go plug out to the Crossroads Center for Children's annual golf tournament next Monday, the 24th at Edison Club. If you're interested, crossroadsgolftournament.com. I know they still have some spaces open. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, on to the public hearing. So I will open the public hearing regarding anyone interested in the proposed development district at 66 Freeman's Bridge Road for the addition to the town code of the town of Glenville. The public hearing is now open. We have now 12 people on the line and still 4 people in the room. So why don't I start in the room first? And that will give people on the line, on the webinar, if they want to speak, please raise your virtual hand and we will call on you and unmute you. You'll have to unmute yourself as well. But we'll start in the room. Does anyone want to be heard on that item? Yes, sir. If you just come to the podium, state your name and address for the record and address the board.
Hello, my name is Harlan Williams. I live at 113 Oakwood, right down here in Woodhaven. I've been a resident of Glenville since 1994, and I came here when I got out of the Marine Corps, and I love living here. I grew up in Virginia, but I love it up here. I love the way this town runs. We're conservative and fiscally responsible, and I think the laws and the zoning make sense, and I think a lot of people like the rural character of the town. And so, having said that, I am certainly not opposed to renewable energy development. I worked at General Electric Company for 20 years. A large portion of that in the wind business, building wind turbine parks all over the country. So again, I have no issue with renewable energy whatsoever, solar, wind, whatever you want. The question I have is more fundamental, and that simply is this. We have a landowner who has an idea for a project on his property that does not conform to the town's zoning requirement. And he has put a proposal together that says, I want to do this here. And we approve this. What are we going to do when the next guy says, I want to do this here and I want to do this there? And I just would like to understand, no one has to tell me, but I mean, I want people to think about, if you haven't, where do we sort of end this thing when a lot of people who have tough pieces of property, and I get it, and they want to do something with it, but it's not in the zoning. So they appeal to the town, whether it's on the green energy side or the good idea side, whether it's trendy, whether it's popular, whatever it is. Where do you stop? What's the judgment process that says, I'm going to approve project A, but I'm not going to approve project B? So that's what I want to understand. Because I love living here in this town, and I love the way this town has been developed, continues to maintain the development in an orderly and conservative fashion. And this just gives rise to concern for me. Thanks.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to be heard on the webinar? Anyone else wish to be heard on the webinar? And I hope you all heard Mr. Williams, right? Mr. Williams, well enough. First, I got to get the camera back for you guys. But he did have a question, and we can probably, I think it's, I know we talked about it's not a back and forth, but it's probably fair to at least answer the question. So took the time to come out, we might as well answer the question. But before we do that, is there anyone else who's going twice? It was difficult to hear. Okay, so we had a situation where it was difficult to hear Mr. Williams, and we're still working on the audio in the room with our vendor, Town TV. Mr. Williams, really, I think I'll summarize it for people to hear it, was you didn't really necessarily have an issue necessarily with renewable energy on its face, solar or wind. The question more was, where do you stop with these types of allowing things that aren't zoned, these PDDs? What's the criteria to say okay to this and not okay to that type of thing? And why would we entertain something that's not zoned in this through this PDD process? Is that kind of?
That's it.
Okay. So that's really the crux of the comments so far from the public. I still see nobody else with their hand up. So going once, going twice, seeing none, close that public hearing. If the board indulges, I think, Mr. Williams, just to respond to some of that, because I think it's important. You're right. I think you bring up a good question, and it's a fair question, and it's a good assessment. I think in this particular case, and we've used PDDs before to do some things that weren't allowed in zoning, but it might have made sense. So when you think about zoning, you think about the macro, right? It's over a large swath of properties, and it's supposed to look at and Jim's probably going to opine on this more than I will because he's better at this, but it looks at a bigger picture. But sometimes there's a piece in there maybe that's a little bit unique or a little bit different or a little bit hard to develop, a property within that larger zone. And you want to look at that and you want to say, well, maybe this makes sense here. But it may not make sense in the entire zone. So you use a PDD as a tool that allows you to have some flexibility in that. In this particular PDD, I think what we did is approached it very conservatively and said, okay, it's very difficult. There's wetlands in the back. It opens up into a back area. There's only 100 feet of frontage. So getting in there and getting something that built in the back is probably very unlikely. It has a long history of being vacant and not being developed. So let's look at what's possible. And so talking to the landowner, talking to the developer, there's an economics problem there. If you want to do retail on 100-foot frontage and you have all this, I don't know how many acres it is now, but say you have 100 acres in the back that aren't usable. This is a opportunity for us to leverage the economics of this project to make that a possibility, to make that redevelopment of the front a possibility. So the town sees a benefit in that. I think when we negotiated PDD, so zoning, you can't negotiate. By right, when you come in, it is what it is. A PDD, we're able to negotiate then for things that make more sense for the town than it does for anyone else. And that's things like you have to make it shovel ready up front. All that blight has to be cleaned up, has to be gone. And that site has to be shovel ready, which will further help the development of it being shovel ready. We put a bond in place so that if they don't develop it within 3 years, we cash the bond and there's a penalty for that. So we're saying, we're giving you 3 years, we're working with you to do this, but if you don't do it, we're going to take the bond, and at least there's a penalty for, not going forward with it. There's a public benefit fee involved. There's $170,000 coming to our park fund for the green space, loss of green space. So there's a public benefit to the town. So these are all the factors that go into us deciding if this makes sense or not. I think, Melissa, unless I'm missing something on the agreement, that's probably the reasoning why. And I think if anyone wants to jump in, I know Jim loves to. Yeah.
So being where the property is with the flyover of the 109th and there's limited uses for the property. Okay, so as a town, we need to do what we can to get some type of something back for that property in some way. With the limited uses, that's the case. The other thing is, it's not feasible to put a solar farm too far from a substation, which in this case, the substation is close enough on Washington Road to make it feasible. So, and that's another part of the idea. Well, where does it end? Well, it ends where the value of actually doing it for the developer ends too. I mean, they're limited in how far away they can get from the substation in order to make it feasible. And we only have 2 substations in town. We have the one on Washington Road and the one out on Starry. So any of these developments are going to be within a certain area of that.
Thank you. Councilor Martin, I don't know if you wanted to say anything.
Yeah,
about
I
PDDs and
did want to chime in a little bit. You know, I think it's important to recognize when you're talking about a planned development district or a planned unit development that's sometimes referred to as, you know, this is intended to be a flexible, you know, planning tool, development tool for property owners, developers to utilize and have access to. However, in saying that, it is a tool that inherently requires us as board members, is we have to look at these things on a case-by-case basis on their individual merits. So it is not to say that everybody who plans for or applies for a planned development district gets one. You know, I've been on this board when we didn't even allow a planned development district proposed to get off the ground. We passed a resolution very early in the process saying no. And so, you know, these applications come in and they're rightly viewed, at least from my perspective, on their individual merits. And I look at the, you know, the attributes, you know, the liabilities and negatives, and if the attributes to the town to the residents, to our comprehensive plan, if that outweighs, then that's something that's worthy of consideration and it advances. And that's the case with this. This is a piece of property with a lot of challenges to it. It's not exactly conducive to a lot of forms of development. This is one that's appropriate. Chris outlined the monetary considerations. That's not it for me. You know, I'm not just doing this for the money. It's an element of the review. So, you know, I look at all those things in total, and then I come to a conclusion whether that's something I can support or not. But it's done on a case-by-case basis. There's no preconceived notion. Pro-development, anti-development, that's not the case for me. I look at these things individually, and if, like I said, the positives outweigh the negatives, then it's something that advances, and that happens to be the case with this particular application. Might not be for the next one.
Thank you, Jim. I know you said, oh, go ahead.
I'd just like to thank you for asking that question, because I don't think that in all the years I've been on the board, anybody's actually asked that question. And I'm glad that you did so that we could respond to it. For myself, Jim is correct, Councilman Martin is correct, that there have been PDDs that have been proposed and development that has been proposed that's not been in line with zoning, and they have not been considered. So I like the fact that it's a flexible way for us to hopefully maximize a property that might not otherwise be maximized. I mean, for years we've had Let's Talk Business Expo, where we've tried to showcase the commercial properties within the town and get interest in them and try to help the property owners develop them in accordance with how it is currently zoned. But something like a PDD, we can leverage it for the town. I think that it becomes a tool for a board to try to get a win-win for everybody. But it is on a case-by-case benefit or merit, and I think that that's also a good part of the process. You know, you can't really decide on something until you let the process go a little bit and find out a little bit more about it and see if it actually is going to be a good idea. So, you know, that when in the case that Councilman Martin was speaking of, where we just said no right off the rip, we had enough information where we said, I think that's going to be a good fit. So, you know, obviously, the whims of the board that's in place, and you know, you hope that they have the same care and concern and carefulness about that process as well. So, you're welcome.
Thank you. You know, Mr. Williams, you could tell we haven't had company in a while, so we're anxious to talk to people. So you happen to just, we're just going to keep talking. What is it going to be?
I'll just summarize quickly about this project, but from a legal standpoint, every decision of the town board is subject to a challenge, whether or not the town board makes the decision to do something or not do something. And each decision has careful thought, at least should, and in my experience, has careful thought out planning of why we were doing something or not doing something. Because it could lead to, as you said, if you do one thing for the same, for A, and A2 comes along and you do something completely different, you could face a challenge for that being arbitrary and capricious, abuse of discretion, some sort of lawful challenge. And so each is taken into consideration as the council person said, you know, each is a case by case, but you do have to look at what you've done in the past and why are you doing this differently? Is it because the facts are different? Is it the law is different? That sort of thing. And it is taken into consideration. Each PDD and each really resolution is taken into consideration of why we're doing what we're doing or not doing.
Mr. Galuski, I'll give you a chance.
The top or a few around center.
They covered it. All right, thank you. Thank you for asking the question. All right, so, well, we have another public hearing, so here we go. We're going to the second public hearing, which is a public hearing regarding all persons interested, or listening to all persons interested for the proposed zoning map amendment at 81 Freemansbridge Road as a solar overlay district. That public hearing is now open. Same order, we'll start in the room. We'll give people a chance to raise their virtual hand if they want to be heard on this matter. And we'll start in the room if anyone wants to be heard on this matter. I think Mr. Williams is afraid to say anything more. We have no one in the room. Anyone online wish to be heard on this matter? Just raise your virtual hand. If so, I'll give you a minute for that. Seeing none, we will close that public hearing. Okay, so we'll move on to number 7, which is privilege of the floor. We'll open privilege of the floor. Anyone wish to speak on any matter related to town business for privilege of the floor? We'll start in the room here. And if not, we'll go to the webinar. You could raise your virtual hand on the webinar and we'll call on you and you can speak on any matter before the town board. Matter regarding town business. Yes, sir.
I'm not sure. I live here in Woodhaven, love it, it's a great neighborhood. We have to do something about the abandoned houses in Glenville. It's a train wreck. And all this high wind has knocked branches onto these old houses. There's houses right in my neighborhood that are broken, weeds. What can we do about that? You know, that's a big, this is otherwise, it affects the saleability of the house, it affects the property value of the house. And 95% of the guys in that neighborhood really do a good job of taking care of their lawns, and trimming their trees and, you know, maintaining their houses. And then you go to these places like 108 Governor and it's a train wreck. So thanks for the opportunity there.
Thank you. And for those who may not be able to hear that, their concern was on abandoned homes in the town and what we can do about that. And we are very much aware of it. And I think we know each and every one of them and we're on it, but it's a process. And someday Melissa can give a dissertation on that, but not tonight, Melissa.
Okay.
But we are aware of them. Anyone else wish to be heard for privilege of the floor on the webinar? Just raise your virtual hand. Going once, going twice, seeing none. That is now closed. We have our annual exciting MS4 report from our Commissioner of Public Works, Tom Capola. Tom, you're on.
Tom, can you spruce it up a little? Jokes or something?
And I need you to speak loudly. Well, that's good. That's good.
So I usually go over here, I give you a report, and I'm gonna break this down. MS4 report is missing stormwater. We are an MS4 community, which means we have, pretty much we do enforcement on cleaning of water. So if, you go down the road, you see, creeks that have debris and things like that, we monitor all these. Train employees to do so. We also take steps in construction to make sure that contractors keep clean areas, retention ponds are done properly. This is all part of this MS4 program. We have an outreach to try to teach kids. We know that we work with you in college and Melissa to try to get this program up and running so the kids are educated. So when they grow up, they can see exactly it's important to keep the quality of water clean. We have a little spot on our website that the kids can go to and the culinary aspect of put together with Eating College. It's a great program. We have outreach, we have literature, we have things on our website to keep people informed. For the general public, it's basically, use common sense. If you shouldn't drink it, don't put it in your water system. If you see somebody in your neighborhood that's changing oil or something like that, and see water in the catch basin, those are reportable instances. We go out to these, we inspect these areas after the complaints come in, and if we can, we track these people down and we write accommodations. The town also takes responsibility of its own properties by, we sweep our roads, we cut our leaves, we keep our parks clean. These are all important aspects of this program. And it's just it does become cumbersome. It is a very involved program with their speed permits and keeping track of all the catch basins and things like that. So it's very time consuming. It's an important program, and it's just it's knowledge to the young people that are in the community and well informed of what's going on, and to keep people in the community well informed of what's going on. This report will be available on the website. Anybody wants to see it, it's a good read. It's a little lengthy, but it's interesting to see if people take advantage. And that is the conclusion of the report this year. Anybody have any questions?
Anyone at all?
I think it's important to know for anybody listening that the town receives no additional funding from the state. This is a state mandate that is unfunded by the state. Every municipality has to participate in it. So it's, it's important, but not important enough to be funded. So.
I just want to thank you and your staff for working every day to make sure that our water is clean. And I just want to point out one thing, that through the entire pandemic, there's one department and only one department outside of administration that worked each and every single day. And that's the folks in the DPW. So I want to thank them for that. Thank you.
Thanks, Tom.
Yeah, but they got at home paid too. They got to stay at home. These guys never went. Yeah, there was others. I mean, that didn't have any alterations to their work schedules. So thank you, Tom. Danny's in the room, and I want to give Danny a gift tonight. I do this for all new promotions and hires. I do not have a supervisor's report tonight, so you do not have to sit through that. That's your one gift, and I want you to remember that next time. Next time we sit down in negotiations, don't ever say I don't do anything for you, because I just did. Yes. These guys are gonna be promoting people all the time just to keep that going. Up to now, so we don't have to. The resolution, oh, an MS4? Okay. Before we do that, we're gonna take the MS4 resolution, but we'll move you up, Danny, so you don't have to wait through everything. So we'll move on to resolution 10, approving the MS4 annual report for March 2020 to March 2021. Do I have a motion? Do I have a second? Moved and second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this is in connection with the MS4 report that was just provided to us by Highway Superintendent Tom Piccola. This resolution would approve the MS4 annual report for the period of March 2020.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Yurzdowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Kettsley?
Yes, sorry. was getting legal counsel on that. Resolution passes. Yeah, okay. So now, just to move up item number 19, as long as no one has an objection, I would like to move item 19, resolution appointing Daniel Van Huzen to the position of road maintenance supervisor effective May 24th, 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I
it.
have a second?
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, there currently exists a vacancy in the position of road maintenance supervisor within the Glenville Highway Department. Daniel Van Huzen has been employed by the town since 2004 and has held the position of motor equipment operator heavy since 2018. The highway superintendent recommends that Daniel Van Huzen be promoted to the position of road maintenance supervisor. He does meet the minimum requirements for the position. The town comptroller has advised that the recommended promotion can be absorbed within existing 2020 or 2021 budget appropriations. So this resolution, should it pass, would appoint position of road maintenance supervisor effective May 24th, 2021, at the hourly pay and benefits for such title and
Service over the years, and congratulations.
I want to take a moment to thank you and congratulate you as well. We've worked together a lot over the years, mostly upstairs in the Mel, working out some issues, and some things, but I think you're going to do great. I think this was a long time coming, and
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski? Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes, congratulations.
Supervisor Kettling?
yes, resolution passes. Congratulations. Now you can, you're free to stay. Yeah, okay, all right, good, all right. Enjoying it. We get funnier the later it goes. So, yeah. So next resolution 11, declaring certain vehicles and equipment as surplus. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second? Moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a resolution declaring certain pieces of equipment and vehicles in the town as surplus equipment. This is something we go through, I believe, on an annual basis. Just itemized, it's a 1987 Ford tractor, 2010 Ford Crown Victoria, 2010 Chevrolet Impala, 1996 International Dump, 2004 Ford Econoline van, 2004 F-350, 1987 Delta trailer, and a 2000 Master Tow trailer, and a 1964 Cleverbrook steamer, and various obsolete garage shop lights, air compressor, and miscellaneous obsolete computers, printers, monitors, and telephone network equipment.
There's at least one thing on here that's older than me. I don't know what a steamer does, but
Yeah,
geez,
I saw that.
there's a few things older than Councilman Galewski, I think.
Yeah, there's nothing older than me.
If anyone wants to buy any of these fine vintage, just give us a call.
I see a Councilman Jim Martin on there.
There you go. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa? Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzowski?
Yes.
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 12, authorizing the purchase of 7 fire hydrants from Ferguson Waterworks. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, this resolution, should it pass, would authorize the purchase of 7 fire hydrants, some that we need to put into service and some that we would be retaining for stock. Commissioner of Public Works developed a spec sheet and obtained from 3 vendors. Ferguson Waterworks of 612 Pierce Road in Clifton Park provided the lowest total cost at the top cost of $2,909.50 per hydrant. So should this resolution pass, it would authorize payment of $17,846.
Maybe the sale of the surplus equipment will pay for it.
Yeah,
Not like. That steamer thing's gonna get a
that
lot.
steamer. M's on it, I think.
I don't know what it is, but it's gonna get a lot.
Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 13, issuing a negative declaration pursuant to seeker regarding the PDD at 66 Freemansbridge Road. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a resolution that will declare a negative declaration in the environmental assessment according to seeker of the proposed action, which was the point of the public hearing earlier this evening, and that was the planned development district for a combination of a solar array at 66 Freemansbridge Road. And in summary, the 5 basic points supporting that negative declaration are: 1, the proposed zoning code amendment fits the character and existing zoning within the Freemansbridge Road corridor. 2, the zone will not interfere with federal wetlands, which will require a national permit review on a case-by-case basis from the Army Corps of Engineers. New York State DOT access will be determined by a DOT access permit. 4, the final glare analysis resulted in a minimal impact to the adjacent airport and Air National Guard operations, and the proposed zoning code update will improve the environmental considerations as it encourages compact redevelopment along an already disturbed area and pedestrian scale commercial buildings, which will improve the aesthetics of the corridor. And there's also noteworthy that this comes as a recommendation from both the Planning and Zoning Commission and the Environmental Conservation Commission.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. As I said, we're pulling resolution 14 for some technical cleanup, and we should anticipate seeing that back here at our next meeting in June 2nd. No, not June 2nd. Oh, that's right, going to summer hours. Yes, okay, third Wednesday is 16th, June 16th. Okay. We'll move on to resolution 15, issuing a negative declaration pursuant to seeker regarding the proposed zoning amendment at 81 Freemansbridge Road. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I have a second.
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, as in the previous resolution, this is a resolution that will authorize a negative declaration under seeker. This time for the proposed action, the solar overlay district at 81 Freemansbridge Road. As before, this was a project that was reviewed by both the Glenville Conservation Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission, and they both recommended a negative declaration. And in summary, the 4 points supporting the neg deck are: the proposed zoning code amendment fits in the character of an existing zoning within the solar overlay requirements. 2, the project will not interfere with federal wetlands, which will require a national permit and a review on a case-by-case basis by the Army Corps of Engineers. The final glare analysis resulted in a minimal impact to the adjacent airport and Air National Guard operations. And 4, the proposed location does not create any significant adverse visual impacts to the surrounding uses due to the proposed buffering of the proposal.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Worzbowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 16, approving the zoning map amendments for 81 Freemansbridge Road from Freemansbridge Road corridor to solar overlay district. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do
it.
I have a second?
Second.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this action will actually place the overlay zone to accommodate the proposed solar use at 81 Freemansbridge Road. And this again is the process that included the Planning and Zoning Commission also supporting or making a recommendation to support the approval of this overlay.
Any other questions or comments?
Just to say that all of this is still subject to final review.
Site plan review.
Yes, that's correct.
And also, just to let the folks know that this particular piece of property, while it says it's 81 Freemansbridge Road, it's pretty far from Freemansbridge Road. It's way back behind the Lowe's closer actually to Washington Road and the railroad tracks than Freeman Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Just to talk a little bit about this, because I was close to the negotiations on this one as well. This was another situation that we talked about earlier, different mechanism, an overlay as opposed to a PDD, but really the same criteria where we're looking at what is possible at that location, how this can help redevelop the location with a grander, more comprehensive approach to doing some other things up front. As the councilman said, it is much further back. It's at the far back of the property. It really will not have a visual impact from Freeman's or from Sunnyside. And this seems like a good use of the property. As we talked about earlier, the proximity to a substation is very important. This solar overlay was written in a way that only allows for development within a certain proximity of that substation to take advantage of the substation. But after that, there really isn't an opportunity. And this is at the outer limit, that half-mile outer limit of the ring from the Washington Ave substation. And then you have the other one, but that's a different project we'll talk about another time. But this seems like a good use of the property to help give it that impetus, that catalyst we need to help start redevelop the front end of it. And that's why this seems to make sense. So I'm in support of this resolution. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 17, to schedule a public hearing on June 16th regarding a proposal to the vehicle and traffic speed limit of the code of the town of Glenville. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I
it.
have a second? Moved and seconded. Any discussion?
Mr. Supervisor, as you stated, this resolution is to schedule a public hearing on June 16th, 2021 at 7 o'clock here at Town Hall for certain changes to the vehicle and traffic chapter of the code. Just briefly, this public hearing would be discussion and surrounding 3 proposed changes, changing the speed limit from 40 miles an hour to 35 miles per hour on Rector Road in the western part of the town, where it runs from Ridge Road down to State Route 5. Just as a, Linda, if you could just have the minutes reflect that it's State Route 5, not State Route 50.
Oh, yes.
Yes,
Yeah.
it doesn't
Thank
need to
you.
be changed because it's not accurate. It would also, from the Flint House Dog Park in the Community Gardens driveway from Elliott Street to the Village of Scotia, it would reduce the park speed limit to 15 miles per hour. The other change that is being considered is max. This doesn't make sense though. This sounds it. Maximum speed limit on 35 miles per hour on Rector Road, and then maximum speed limit of
We're
40 miles per
repealing,
hour.
oh,
They're repealing
That's
one.
repealing that.
Repeal of the 40 miles
Yeah.
per hour speed limit currently in place
So
on,
they're taking the 40 and making.
yeah, we're
Yes.
taking the 40 and making it 30, I'm sorry. Yeah, that should say, yeah, so that C should say a repeal of the maximum speed limit of 40 miles per hour on Rector Road, where it runs from Ridge Road to New York State Route 5.
any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski? Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Ketzler?
Yes, resolution passes. Next, resolution 18, rejecting all bids regarding the tree inventory project and to reevaluate and to rebid actually for the project. Do I have a motion?
I'll move
Do I have
it.
a second? Moved and second. Any discussion?
Yes, Mr. Supervisor, this is a resolution rejecting the bid we got. I would imagine, Melissa, is because they exceeded the.
No, no. I'll take it because people can't hear you. So there was an error in the bid. Remember we moved Davies last time and then we had to table it because we got, so as it says in the resolution, there was just an error in the proposal that we put out. So we think it's best to just reset and rebid and redo it.
Okay.
We did get 8 respondents, so I would hope we get that same high level of interest on the next round. So,
Yes. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski?
Yes.
Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution, 20, because we did 19 already, approving the minutes for the town board meeting on May 5th. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
I have a second.
I'll say.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
As noted, Mr. Supervisor, this would approve the minutes from the intent from the top board meeting. Submitted to us by Mr. Yoder and staff, and I think that's what we're together for.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski? Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Next resolution 21, approving the monthly departmental reports for April 2021. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it.
Do I have a second?
I'll say.
Moved in second. Any discussion?
As noted, this would approve the monthly reports for the month of April. Submitted to our email addresses for the town, and we'll thank them for putting those together.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski?
Yes.
Councilwoman Wozzachowski? Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. Before we go to new business, we'll take our add-on resolution number 1, approving a bid from Empire Paving regarding the Glen Oaks project and rejecting the second location due to budget constraint. Do I have a motion?
I'll move it. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Moved and seconded.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Just to set this, we had, Tom, you're here. How many bids did we get in for this? 8, 6? I think it was 6 bids. This is the lowest responsible by $161. I know that was a tight bid. And this will allow us to pave all of Glen Oaks, the entire Glen Oaks neighborhood, and the roads are listed there. Unfortunately, we put on the bid another development, Indian Hills, hoping that we can get to both. The bid did come in at a point where it made Indian Hills out of reach for us budgetarily. And so Indian Hills will have to be put onto the 2022 budget at this juncture. Right now, we can at least get Glen Oaks done. And that's only because we had the extra $150,000 allocated out of the capital reserves already. Any other questions or comments?
And I'll point out the beauty of a reserve.
Yes.
Saying.
I think, Mr. Supervisor, we get questions quite often from residents wondering why we can't commit to paving an area, and this resolution and this situation perfectly does demonstrate why we can't commit, because sometimes we have a certain amount allotted to try to allot a certain amount of paving each year, and in the hopes that, prices will stay low enough where we're able to get everything done. And unfortunately, in this instance, it illustrates exactly why even the Commissioner of Public Works cannot say for certainty, yes, your road will be done next year, unfortunately. So.
Thank you. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, please record the vote.
Councilman Martin?
Yes.
Councilman Aragosa?
Yes.
Councilman Godlewski? Councilwoman Wozzachowski? Supervisor Pettsley?
Yes, resolution passes. On to new business. I'll start on my left with Councilman Godlewski.
Mr. Supervisor, I have to address this in my opening comments. I would be remiss if I didn't bring up that reason coming up. It is on Tuesday, May 25th. It is going to be the grievance, the Board of Assessment review will be meeting between the hours of 9 to 12, and then 1 to 5, and then also 6 to 8. You have the ability to appear in person. You can just appear based on your submissions, intending to appear in person. You need to reach out to the assessor's office, to Assessor Bill Patel, in advance by calling 518-688-6. And again, grievance day, if you are unhappy with your assessment on your home.
And who isn't?
Your time to unhappy to the point where you think you have a case. You that is your time to decide on grievance day. And then the only other thing I would address, to piggyback on some of Councilwoman Wozzachowski's comments about the fire that happened over on Sunnyside. And kind of a bit of a, maybe I don't know if it's connected, but maybe a sad irony is I had received a complaint from a resident about activity going on late at night over their work going on, cutting lawns, etc. Kind of going past the 7 o'clock hour. I don't know, and certainly I'm very happy that Farming's fire experienced, but just a reminder to specifically to corporations doing business next to or near residential neighborhoods to abide by that 7 o'clock hour to kind of cut off their working activities, because noise that comes along with it after a while become a little bit upset, and that's all.
Thank you. Councilman Worzbowski.
I would be very remiss if I did not take the opportunity to, in addition to recognizing the firefighters in our town, recognizing all of the EMS providers. This week is EMS week nationally, where we take time and recognize the certified first responders, the emergency medical technicians, the paramedics that work in our communities. I am a paramedic, as most of you know myself, and this past year for us has been very challenging. It's been very discouraging at times. And I would say that the EMS community is stronger for all of us having been together. And I would just like to wish all of my fellow EMS providers a very, very happy and safe EMS week.
Thank you. Councilman Martin.
Nothing new.
Councilman Aragosa. The only thing I have, and I just want to point it out because I think Councilwoman Worzbowski was talking a little bit about it. And since we passed the paving plan for this year, it is a difficult thing. Tom and I and the board sit down every year and we kind of figure out what we can do and where it's needed. And we understand the need is great. I mean, we're not just saying with this resolution, only Glen Oaks needs it. We know Indian Hills needs it. We know many other streets need it. And we do what we can with what we can do. And as Councilman Martin talked about the reserves, that's important because now we're able to do more than we've done in the past. But I want to thank Tom Capola and Dana Gilgore for their work of putting together, actually, with an intern now from Cornell. And thank Melissa Cherubino too for working on this one, putting together a program where we're going to have an intern actually map and provide a report of the conditions of our roads. We're investing in technology for this. We're investing in giving this person all the tools they need. But this will be the first kind of, I want to use the word professional assessment as far as of our roads. And that will give us, and correct me if I'm wrong, it'll give us a 5-year plan out of there based on the conditions of the road. So there'll be a criteria, not that we didn't use that before, but we never had that type of expertise at our fingertips. So I want to thank you guys for putting that together and getting that going. It's going to be helpful for us. Well, you knew it was Cornell. I thought it was Union. So there you go. What's the difference? So I want to thank you for that. It's going to be good for the town. So with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn. Do I have a second? Moved and seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? We're adjourned. Thank you.